Good morning.
Morning.
Good
How's
morning.
everybody? Well, it's 9:30. It's 9:30. It's Wednesday, July 27th, and this is the a New Mexico Public Regulation Commission open meeting. I think we should get started. Let's see. I'm not sure who's going to take the role. Judy? Okay.
Yes, I can take the role. Commissioner Byrd,
I'm a present.
Commissioner Maestas,
I'm here.
Commissioner Fishman,
Here.
Commissioner Hall,
Here.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Here.
We have 5 commissioners present and we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Judy. Let's see. I wonder if we could have Christopher Hall do the pledge. I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot, Chris. I'm not sure if you've done it before, but you want to give it a shot?
Sure thing, Madam Chair. Hold on just.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right, we've got item number 3, consideration and approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
I believe item 10.6, Utility Division Staff Energy Transition Act Supplemental Report needs to be removed from the agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct. I had placed it on the agenda thinking that further action needed to be taken by the commission, but the commission's already voted on it and it just needs to be sent out. So that should be removed.
Oh, good. I wondered why that was there. Thank you very much. I have one request. I would like to have item B in the consent action items by B3, case number 22-00188 UT, move to the regular agenda, simply because I'd just like to have Judy provide a little bit more explanation. So I'd like to make that change. And with those 2 changes, are there any others? Hearing none.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Let's do the vote. Go ahead, Judy.
Yes, Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 5-0 as amended.
Thank you, Judy. So moving on to introduction of special guests, it looks like we will be having an introduction of new ASC employees by Miranda Mascarenas. Miranda, you want to take it away?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I do want to introduce two new employees we have with ASD this morning. I think PRC is very fortunate to have obtained these new employees. The first employee I would like to introduce is Amelia Chavez. She does go by Molly. She is our new budget and finance manager. Molly has over 20 years experience in governmental accounting. She has 12 years experience in the private sector, conducting audits of governmental entities, and has recently was the CFO for the Early Childhood Education and Care Department. The second employee I would like to introduce today is our new financial coordinator. This position has been vacant for quite some time with PRC, so we are fortunate to have filled it with an amazing candidate, Jose Montano. He has 22 years in the Navy, where he performed duties related to HR functions and accounting duties, and recently comes to us from the Department of Finance and Administration. He was previously their general ledger accountant over there, and as you all know, they are an oversight agency, so it is great for PRC to have someone with that knowledge. And Madam Chair, I would like to request, if you approve, that I turn the floor over to them to say a few words to the commission.
Oh, absolutely. They sound really like wonderful hires. So please go ahead, whichever one of you would like to speak first. I see Ms. Chavez. Is that right?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I just want to thank Miranda and Renata for the opportunity to come work for this agency. I'm excited to be here and to add another state agency under my belt, and happy to be working on this with this amazing team that we have. Looking forward to everything and moving forward and getting our ASD set up and aligned.
Thank you very much. It's Molly, right?
Madam Chair, yes.
Molly Chavez. Well, it's very nice to meet you and welcome. You're sorely needed, and we're just really delighted to see the whole division getting beefed up. So thank you very much for deciding to join our family. So
thank you.
Great. And Mr. Montano.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to come work for PRC. I've always enjoyed working with Miranda, and when this opportunity became available, I jumped on it right away, and I know that working with PRC would be most helpful in continue working for the state. So thank you everyone for allowing this opportunity, and looking forward to making this a very special agency.
Well, I really appreciate that sentiment. We feel it's special, but it can always be improved, especially with the right people. And you have a tremendous background, both of you do, and I'm just thrilled that we've been able to attract you, and I hope you'll stay for a long time. So thank you. Thank you, Miranda, as well. Let's move on to public comment. Do we have anyone who's signed up for public comment? And I'm not too sure.
Madam Chair, I am not aware of anyone that has signed up for public comment for today's meeting. If there is no one in person in the hearing room that has requested public comment, then there would be no one signed up today. Okay,
thank you, Hans. All right, so, but I believe in item number 6, we do have a presentation by New Mexico Gas Company related to case number 2100195 UT, the 2021 winter event term loan refinancing alternatives. And I see Mr. Brian Haverly there, and a lady with him. I assume he'll introduce. You want to proceed, Brian?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much for this opportunity. As you said, I'm Brian Haverly. Today I'm joined by Jimmy Blotter. She is the Vice President of Finance for New Mexico Gas Company. And as you stated, we're here to talk about refinancing the winter weather event term loan that we had to take out. If the commissioners remember, in February of 2021, there was a massive storm that hit the US and the Southwest. Particularly, gas costs and electric costs went up all over the place, and especially in Texas. Gas costs went from $2 to $3 a therm to over $100 a therm, and in some places over $200 a therm over just a few days. And so New Mexico Gas Company went out and obtained the gas that it needed to supply to its customers, but in doing so, it was forced into the marketplace and had to pay some extraordinarily high gas prices. In order to take care of that and pay its bill, the gas company obtained a $100 million loan that was 18 months in duration and had a variable interest rate. And that was a LIBOR index plus 0.65. And the company came in I believe, March of 2021, and we asked for the ability to recover these extraordinary gas costs. And the commission in 21-00095 approved that recovery, which we appreciate greatly. In doing so, the commission asked us to come in and make a presentation if the term loan interest rate exceeded 1.25%, which was the current 0.75% as of the time the commission entered its order, and a plus or minus 0.50 basis points. So when we had those 50 basis point change, which we just recently had because of the interest rate increases, both due to inflation and due to the Fed and other things, we immediately started looking at our refinancing options and wanted to come in and give our presentation to you all as required in your order. So what we have seen, as I said, was that, I'm sorry, was there a question?
No.
Okay.
I was just nodding my head.
Excellent. So what, as I said, we've seen an increase in interest rate. It's now above 1.25%. Our 18-month term loan is also coming close to maturity. So this is a good time to do the presentation of what the things the New Mexico Gas Company is planning to do with this loan. So when we saw that it went above the 1.25% variable interest rate, we contacted our parent company, started talking with the investment bankers to see what kind of options there were to refinance this amount of money. And we saw that there were several products out on the market. If we want to go to the next slide, whoever is controlling that PowerPoint, perfect. So we saw that there were variable term loans that we could potentially do, which are similar to what we currently have. We could also look at fixed rates with a set maturity. And the final option that we could identify was we have a currently existing revolving credit facility, and we could potentially use that to refinance this loan. So if we can go to the next slide. Here's the information that we came up with when looking at our various options. So we got quotes from investment bankers working via the Amera Treasury Department. And as you can see, we looked at an 18-month variable rate loan, which is exactly what we have right now. So it would be almost like a refinancing or extending of what we have now. So it's a refinance of almost exactly what we have. The interest rate would be slightly different because it is a variable. So we'd be looking at that. Our current interest rate spread is 0.65. This is actually smaller spread. This would, right now they're talking about a potential 0.60 spread. So above the index. So that might be a nice option to look at. We also looked at an 18-month fixed rate bullet loan, which means that it's payable all at the end. We pay monthly interest rates, payments, and then we pay the principal all in one swoop at the end of the 18 months. As the commission can see, that's a 3.28% base rate, and there would be a credit spread on that of 1.2%. So ultimately we get to about 4.48% is what our best guess is right now. We'd also talked to the investment bankers about a 2-year fixed rate bullet loan, which would be, again, we make monthly interest rate payments for 2 years, and then we pay the full balance at the end of the 2-year period. As you can see, that's also about a 3.38% base rate with an additional 1.4% credit spread. The fixed rate ultimately becomes 4.78% if we do that. Then we looked at a 5-year loan, which is kind of far out because we currently are planning on having the full recovery done within the 30-month period that the commission allowed us to recover this. So 5 years is kind of a long time to borrow if we're looking at a recovery of a 30-month period. And that is a little bit cheaper than the 2-year loan. That's a 3.03% interest rate with a 1.45% credit spread for an ultimate 4.48% interest rate. And then we looked at what we could do with our revolver. The company has a $125 million credit facility that's in place right now. We were able to borrow from that and pay it off as we need to. Putting this amount of money on the revolver would be a little difficult for the liquidity of the company. So we'd probably have to execute what is called an accordion feature. And that accordion feature would raise the revolving credit facility to 200 million instead of 125. And so that would come with its own costs and fees to execute that accordion feature. And we would also have some different interest rates that we'd be dealing with. So if you look at the revolving credit line, it's a little bit higher interest rate as a benchmark, and the credit spread is greater. So that to us didn't seem like the best option for us to do, including by triggering that accordion. So ultimately, when we looked at everything and we're looking at the interest rates that the investment bankers are predicting, and they're trying to factor in the proposed Fed interest rate hikes and other things, the ultimate view was that 18-month variable rate loan probably still results in the cheapest money that we can borrow for customers. All the fixed rate loans they want, as you can see, it's over a 1% higher interest rate for those facilities. There is risk with the variable rate. I mean, if things were to change dramatically, there's more risk. We wouldn't have that fixed rate. But at this point, the folks that we've talked to in the investment community have factored in some interest rate increases over the next 18 months. And they believe that this is the cheapest interest rate we could have. So that's what we're looking at. We wanted to come in and talk with you all, tell you the things that we've investigated, looked at for replacing this 18-month term loan, and that we'll be coming in with a filing on this potentially in the very near future. And we'll explain all of it in more detail in our testimony in that filing. But this gives you a good picture of what we're looking at in terms of the products we have available to refinance this money.
Okay, that's very interesting. I really appreciate this. Is a very good, graph or table, I should say. Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Haverly?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
Madam Chair, thank you. In terms of other financings going on, are there other significant financings that New Mexico Gas needs to engage in the next year or two?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fishman, we are looking at doing a long-term debt issuance in 2023. At this point, we don't have anything that we were planning to do this year. And let me turn that over to Ms. Blotter. Do you know what time frame you're thinking about in 2023?
That is a very good question. Probably somewhere between, probably across the middle of the year. We had originally planned for that in February of 2023, but I believe that the cash situation of the company will allow us to extend that by at least a few months to push that out a little bit.
So my question was, with the way interest rates are trending, do you guys feel like there's any efficacy in maybe financing a little bit earlier, or just not a game you want to play? It just gets too speculative?
that's an excellent question, and one that we have dealt with quite a lot.
I imagine.
Right. The most recent headlines that I've seen as of yesterday morning are that expectations are the Fed will be raising rates, but may actually come back and then in turn cut rates. So it seems like 2023 probably is a reasonable time to think about engaging in long-term financing. And then we just need to be sensitive to the market and be able to move when it seems like it's as the most opportune time. So that's why we stay in touch with our investment bankers to get their advice on that.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess I have a question for, I apologize, Mr. Haverly, I forgot the name of the woman sitting next to you.
Yes, Madam Chair, it's Jimmy Blotter.
Water, that's right, it's water. So yeah, something you just said piques my curiosity. Did your information that you just cited said that the rates will be going up, but they might be cut? Did they provide any information why they might be cut? Just curious.
I am not an economist or an expert on this. So let me give that caveat to this. But if you think about the economic situation that our country and frankly a lot of the world is in, the Fed goes through and tries to raise rates in an effort to control inflation, right? So when financing becomes more expensive, then there is less activity in the market, which in theory should drive down rates. The underlying premise of the article was that the Fed is likely to move aggressively on interest rates, which will cause, in turn, inflation, hopefully, to come down. But if they move too aggressively, there's a risk of recession, at which point the typical tool to fight recession is to, in turn, lower interest rates. And so it's a bit of a cycle that the Fed is dealing with.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions from any other commissioners? Hearing none, I just want to thank you, Mr. Haverly and Ms. Waters, for being here. Oh, you're not finished.
Oh,
let's hear your last slide here if you want to.
Madam Chair, of course, this is just our recommendation. The final slide is the recommendation that we stick with an 18-month time frame. It right now is the cheapest interest rate that we have in the market, and so that's what we were talking about. And so, like I said, we will be coming in with a filing for this, for approval of all these things, but we want to be able to give you the presentation and let you know that we've been doing our due diligence on this. We've been paying attention. We take your orders very seriously, and we saw these market conditions changing and wanted to come in and tell you about it.
Wonderful. Well, I certainly appreciate it, and I know we all do. So thank you very much for this information, and good luck with your financing activities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. We appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see. Let's move on to consideration and approval of prior meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes to the prior meeting minutes of June 28th?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
I move to accept the minutes of June 28th, 2022 into the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Judy, take the roll.
Yes. I hope you can hear me. Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
The minutes are approved 5-0. And for the record, I'd like to make a correction. Previously, when you approved the form of the agenda as amended, I said the word consent agenda, and I shouldn't have. That we have not done that yet. all the commission did was approve the form of the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Judy. I appreciate that. All right, so moving on, we're on the consent action items. So not to trouble you again, Judy, but could you please read those out?
Yes, would you like to make a motion to approve it?
Yes.
Madam
Yes.
Chair,
Yes.
move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. We have a motion and second. Want to ask for the roll call, Judy?
Yes. Well, I would like to read.
Read it out first.
Right. Number 1 is 22-00170 TRM. In the matter of the application of Smart Trans LLC for a certificate to provide non-emergency medical transport service, potential order regarding application. Number 2, 22-00175 TRM. In the matter of the application of Zia Black Car LLC for a certificate to provide limousine service, potential order regarding application. And regarding the utility matters, that was moved to regular agenda B3, number 22-0018188 UT. So I'll move to number 4, which is 22-00093 UT in the matter of El Paso Electric Company's application for approval of its 2022 Renewable Energy Act plan pursuant to the Renewable Energy Act and 17.9.572 NMAC and 6th revised rate number 38 RPS cost rider. Potential order regarding El Paso Electric Company's verified expedited motion for a 2-month extension of its August 1st, 2022 application filing date. And those are the consent action agenda items. And there's been a motion and a second, so I'll take the roll call. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Yes.
The consent agenda items as just read have been approved 5-0.
Judy, did you ask me to vote?
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hall.
Okay, aye.
And so, yes, the consent agenda items have been approved 5-0.
Thank you.
You
All
gotta stay on top of it with too many things going on.
Well, I make plenty of mistakes, so I'm amazed I caught something. So moving on to the regular agenda action items, let's take up the one we moved from the consent action first. Item number 3 from the consent agenda item. I don't know what it is now numbered, but it is on case 22-00188 UT. Judy, could you please just talk us through that a little bit?
Yes. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my computer today. Okay. This is in the matter of the application for reliability determination for the Mora Line transmission project. Is filed by the applicant, New Mexico Renewable Energy Transmission Authority, on July 18th, 2022. As you, they're also known as RETA, R-E-T-A. They're asking for the reliability determination under section 62-164B8, which requires them to file with the commission for a reliability determination. A brief overview of the project is that on January 1st, 2022, Rita and Lucky Corridor entered into a development acquisition lease and sub-easement agreement through which Rita acquired and is co-developing the project, which consists of 115 new miles of new transmission facilities to connect Union County and northeastern New Mexico's wind and solar resource region to P&M system in Las Vegas, New Mexico. There's more specifics about the application in the order regarding building substations and how it will traverse through Union, Colfax, Mora, and San Miguel counties. The RETA Act does require the commission to make its reliability determination before RETA can proceed with the project. Attached to the application was a final system impact study prepared by Utility Systems Efficiencies, Inc. And they were hired by Lucky, which is the partner that RETA has entered into the development, acquisition, lease, and sub-easement agreement. In addition, Lucky has entered into amended and restated transmission, construction, and interconnection agreements with Tri-State. The proposed initial order would require staff to review the application and file a response within 20 days of this order, advising the commission on staff's position as to the requirements RETA should be required to perform and prove to establish it has met the necessary steps to receive a commission reliability determination. Staff should also state whether it needs to obtain the advice of third-party technical experts. In the event staff believes the use of an outside consultant is necessary to perform the required reliability determination, staff shall endeavor to identify a consultant with necessary expertise so that it may include in its response to the commission an estimate of the period of time that it will be required to complete the necessary review and its means to obtain the services of such consultant. The order also would require that a staff's response states that it does need to obtain the services of a consultant, as I've just described. RETA shall bear the costs of staff's contract with said consultant. In addition, RETA shall file proof of its compliance with the notice and hearing provisions of section 6216A4C and also provide notice to the Attorney General. And that proof of compliance shall be filed within 20 days of the order. And I stand for questions regarding this proposed order.
Well, Judy, I had asked you the question of, I wasn't quite sure where the, I wasn't quite sure of the nexus of what we needed, why we were asking for financing support, but I understand now. The 20 days, I'm wondering, surely this report can't be finished in 20 days.
No, staff is required to file a position statement as to what information they think that they need in order to make a reliability determination and how many days it will take them to make a reliability
I see.
determination. And
Okay.
in case they should say whether or not they think they need to hire a consultant in order to assist them in making the reliability determination. Because the state says that staff is supposed to decide whether the action, quote, does not materially diminish electric service reliability of the transmission system in New Mexico as determined by the Public Regulation Commission.
Mhm.
So that's the language that we have to go on. And I do not know whether staff has someone on staff right now who could legitimately make such a determination, and whether or not they'll have to hire a consultant.
Mhm. Okay, commissioners, does anybody have any other questions for Judy or comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes. Commissioner Myers, Vice Chair Myers.
Well, when was the last time we've done a reliability assessment or analysis approval?
That was case number 17-00318. Sorry, did I get it? 17-00318. That was in the matter of the request of a reliability determination for the Western Spirit transmission system. And in that case, it got sent to a hearing examiner, I believe. And at this point, we don't have enough information to even know whether or not we need to send it to a hearing examiner. That being said, this initial order models the initial order that we did in that case. Actually, I'm not sure we did send it to a hearing examiner. In that case, we just issued a final order.
So Judy, in that case, did we use a third-party expert to assist staff in recommending a determination?
We asked staff if they needed one, and I do not know. I'd have to look and see whether staff said that they did need one or not. So if you can hold on. We did do the same thing. We asked them whether or not they needed one, and that a consultant. And that case was the first time that we had been asked to do it. Staff said that they endeavored to identify local sources of qualified technical expertise by inquiry to New Mexico engineering firms and institutes of higher learning. And it looks like they had trouble finding people, and they anticipated the cost of reviewing and verifying the study will not exceed $20,000, that it could take 3 to 4 weeks to do it. And Rita, in that case, offered to pay for the expense of the third-party technical expert. And staff proposed that the commission should accept Rita's offer to fund the review and verification.
Thank you for that, Judy. I'm really pleased to see this new transmission line project. It's going to traverse much of my district, and it's also encouraging to see that not only will PNM interconnect, but so will Tri-State. So I see a benefit to co-ops and and to one of our investor-owned utilities. But there's been a lot of talk about the length of time it takes, particularly in the planning and project development phases of these transmission line projects. And I'm wondering if there's anything we can do as an agency to recommend to the legislature how we can streamline this process. I realize, our authority and actions are limited, but I think we should do everything possible to try and streamline the planning and project development of these projects. We all understand the very nature of New Mexico. We're rich in public lands and tribal lands, and I know that that certainly triggers a whole host of environmental protection laws, social economic evaluation phases, but I think we as an agency need to perhaps informally partner with other organizations that are involved, like RETA, to find out how we can streamline these projects, because we all know that our transmission grid is in dire need of being upgraded and expanded. So anyway, I just wanted to comment on that, but I'm pleased to see this project being brought forward by RETA. And I look forward to the reliability analysis. That's all I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maestas, and I share your enthusiasm for this project and these types of projects and the participation. It's all good. So any other comments or questions from any other commissioners on this matter? Hearing none, let's move on to the next one, which is, and we're in regular action now. It'd be item number 5, possibly 6 now.
Madam Chair, are we going to move the order?
Sorry. Yeah.
A motion,
Yes.
a second, and a vote.
Okay, sorry.
I'll move to approve the order as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Judy, take the roll.
Was there a second?
Yes. Commissioner Byrd.
Commissioner Byrd.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
The order passes 5-0.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, now we can move on to case number 22-00194-TR-EN. In the matter of the investigation of Lyft Incorporated, it's a potential order and is presented by Hans Muller. So Hans, would you like to proceed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This matter comes before the Commission upon the petition for orders to show cause and to cease and desist filed by the Commission's Transportation Division staff, and upon the verified motion to stay order to cease and desist, alternative motion to vacate order to cease and desist, and expedited request to renew permit nunc pro tunc to July 18th, 2002, filed by Lyft. The background is basically respondent Lyft had a permit to operate as a transportation network company in New Mexico. A TNC permit has a duration of 1 year, and this one was set to expire on July 19th, 2002. Respondent Lyft admits that due to a mailroom error, the application and payment were sent to Commission staff via certified mail and not priority mail. Tracking provided by Lyft shows that there was a 3-day delay in the mail between Tucson and Albuquerque. This resulted in the hard copy application and payment being received at the Commission's mailbox on July 21st and received by staff on July 22nd. Thus, there was a lapse in the expiration of the old permit and the completed application being received by staff. The Commission issued a cease and desist order, which was filed after working hours on Friday, July 22nd. indicating to Lyft to cease operations until the permit was issued, and ordered staff to issue the permit if the application was compliant on July 25th, Monday. Staff issued the permit on July 25th with an effective date of July 25th. Lyft's motion, which was filed on July 25th prior to the issuance of the permit, requested the commission either stay or vacate the cease and desist order and issue the permit nunc pro tunc with a date of July 18th, 2002, which was the day they mailed the electronic copy of the application to staff without the payment. The motion to stay or vacate the motion, I would argue, is moot at this point, as the permit has already been issued by staff. The remaining factor then for consideration of the commission is whether to backdate the permit based on nunc pro tunc status or on another basis. Staff filed a response yesterday to Lyft's motion, indicating their agreement that the motions to stay or vacate are moot at this point. States that they declined to participate in the creation of a legal fiction proposed by Lyft to retroactively grant the permit, and states that Lyft knowingly continued its operations absent the issuance of a new permit for a period of 6 days. The options then before the commission today would be one of the following three options. Leave the permit date as is with a effective date of July 25th. The second would be order staff to reissue the permit with an effective date of July 21st or 22nd via a nunc pro tunc status. Or three, under the discretion of the authority of the commission, grant a variance to Lyft on the commission's own action, relieving them of the requirement that the payment accompany a completed application. So then the permit can be issued with essentially a July 19th effective date. The first two options would leave a gap of days where Lyft operated without a permit, and the commission would then have to consider staff's request for an order to show cause, and if an evidentiary hearing is required for a potential fine. I would argue that the concept of nunc pro tunc is invalid here as per the request. Staff did not have the payment by July 18th, 2002, so there is nothing staff could have done on July 18th, 2002, and there is no omission or mistake by staff that could have resulted in the permit being issued by staff on that day. Thus, the only nunc pro tunc status, in my opinion, would be amending the permit to the date the check was received. I would recommend the commission granting a variance to Lyft from the requirement that the application be complete only with payment, rendered for purposes of this application only in this particular, under the unique circumstances of this particular application. The effective date can then be changed to when staff could have completed the permit on July 18th, 2002. I would note that our rules under NMAC Title 18, Chapter 7 do not specify a variance process, so any variance granted would be under the general provisions and authority of the commission. Lyft argues in their motion that their permits have always been granted on a backdated basis. OGC has reviewed the past 5 years of filings and found that in all instances, the completed packet had been received by the July 19th expiration dates. And if it took the staff a couple of days or a week to issue the permit, staff would put the effective date as July 19th. This is the first instance, however, where we have had a lapse, even if it is only 1 or 2 days, in the permit expiring and the full application with payment being received by staff. The potential proposed order that I have put in front of you for consideration would fine Lyft $500 for late compliance. The commission has the option to increase that amount up to $1,000 per day per violation. However, this fine would be held in abeyance as long as Lyft files their 2023 renewal by July 5th, 2023, which would be 14 days before the expiration. This is basically to prevent further incidents from occurring. In this manner, the commission would be stating, don't let this happen again for renewal compliance. If Lyft timely files their 2023 renewal in timely fashion based upon the July 5th deadline, the fine would be waived. The order then orders staff to initiate a new proposed rulemaking, adding language to our rules to clearly delineate the renewal process for companies to avoid future confusion, as in this scenario. The Act currently allows staff to have up to 15 days to process the permit. However, our rule does not contain any language requiring companies to submit their completed application 15 days prior to the expiration date of the current permit. So it is my opinion that additional language is needed in order to prevent future lapses in permits and backstamping of permits. I would recommend the proposed order if the commission feels that Lyft made a good faith attempt to get the completed application to staff in a timely manner, but due to a mailroom error, the payment was late by 2 days. The focus then essentially switches to how to avoid additional problems in the future in similar situations, so the commission does not have to file orders to cease and desist to protect itself in instances where the renewal is stuck in the mail, and to encourage companies to file their renewal in advance, weeks in advance, instead of at or on the expiration date of the current permit. With that, I'll stand for any questions or discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Commissioners, are there any comments or questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Mr. Mueller, sorry. So I have a question. I think it's been pretty well stated that I don't like fining companies who are in violation by error or ignorance. You know, it's not a malicious intent to violate. It just, things happen. And so I've always argued, especially for transportation companies and stuff, I think it's well documented. But I'm curious. Our order on Friday for cease and desist says Lyft is hereby ordered to cease and desist all business operations until Lyft has been granted a permit by the commission, period. In your order today, I believe it's paragraph 11, bottom sentence. Lyft further indicates it did not consider the commission's order to cease and desist effective until July 25th, 2022, did not cease operations. Common sense tells me that was wrong, but there must be some legal standard that their attorney used to make that determination. Why did they not take that to be effective immediately?
That is correct, Commissioner. There are Lyft's counsel argues that since the cease and desist order was issued after working hours on a Friday, that it would become effective on the next business day. However, my counter argument to that would be they were notified that their permit expired on the 19th. Technically, they did not even require a cease and desist order to know that their permit had already expired. So the cease and desist order essentially was a second warning to them that they were operating without a permit.
So that kind of takes my personal standard away, that they weren't. At that point, they're behaving in a manner knowingly violating the law. And so anyway, I think we're being extremely lenient at this point in putting that $500 and $500 in abeyance. So I just want that on record, that they're getting away with something here that I think is, anyway. Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Thank you. And the commission does have the option to change that amount or change the in abeyance wording. Typically, if we do have a fine, we typically put that before a hearing examiner, so there is an evidentiary hearing on it. So really the proposed order is just a almost like a settlement. And I would say my proposed order gives the option to both Lyft and staff to agree to the terms of it without further evidentiary hearings. If they decide not to agree to the terms of the order would be vacated and it would be assigned to a hearing examiner at that point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mueller. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will wait before I'm making any other statements here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Byrd. Anybody else have any comments? Yes, Commissioner Fishman and then Commissioner Maestas.
Yeah, thank you. I'm inclined to go with this order as is, mostly because, and I'm being the lenient one here, and I guess this is not a situation where I believe customers have been harmed or the public was put at risk. The agency was legally put at risk. But I think that Hans has done a good job of working to remedy the problem for the future. So I'm actually pretty comfortable with this as is. Could Lyft have behaved better? Probably. But again, I think we're addressing the issue for the future and no one got hurt, and that's what's important. So with that, I would move the order and certainly open to further discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Vice Chair Maestas, would you like to comment?
Well, Madam Chair, for the purposes of discussion, I'll second Commissioner Fishman's motion.
Okay.
So under discussion, Madam Chair, I guess I'm going to take a few steps back on this issue. Hans, why do we allow for electronic submission of the application, but snail mail paper check payment that lags behind the electronic application?
I do not have information regarding as to if the processing of the check was the way Lyft insisted upon doing it, or if transportation staff has a valid method of electronic receipt of that. I do not have evidence on the record right now indicating one way or another whose option that was. I would have to check with transportation staff to see if that was offered as an electronic option.
So as I think this order directs staff to revisit the rules and maybe make some helpful changes to ensure this doesn't happen again. But to me, this is electronic payment should be mandatory among all regulated entities. As you recall, when we launched the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, we required all landlords and public entities that would be poised to receive federal funds. They had to submit a W-9 and be registered in the state share system, the financial management system. So my advice to staff is that should be mandatory when they revisit these rules to ensure this doesn't happen again. Also, Madam Chair, I was involved in that discussion on Friday evening over, how to respond to this situation. And one of the prominent topics in that discussion was, does the insurance coverage continue for rideshare programs if their permit expires? And because again, that does expose liability, not just for the company, but to the agency. If you don't know, Hans, right now, that answer, I think that we should look at that to ensure that there is some continued coverage in the absence of permit expiration for a certain number of days to ensure that there is no potential legal risk when a permit expires. Hans, was there any discussion internally about that? And is this something that staff can look at?
It's definitely something we can look at further. I mean, Lyft did indicate that their insurance coverage did continue. I would say there is probably a reason that they want it redone, backstamped to July 18th. However, in regards to our particular insurance, I would have to review that with staff.
And I guess the last procedural question or issue that I have is that I hate when we have to really truncate our process. Our rules require 15 days. There's a reason why we need 15 days. And so as staff revisits this rule, I think it's got to be mandatory that the application and payment be submitted 15 days before the expiration of the permit. So, I mean, that's just common sense. You know, these are very successful national companies. And so there can't be any discretion there that they can send it whenever they want within that 15-day period prior to permit expiration. Any discussion on that, Hans, when you were?
I'm in agreement with you that I believe that if we update the rules, that they should say a minimum of 15 days prior to the expiration, possibly even extended in case, let's say, for example, the company submits it, but there's still an item missing. They think it's complete, but it's not complete. So there would be an argument to extend that even beyond 15 days in case there is some discrepancy or something wasn't mailed that they thought was mailed. That's what I think our rules can be approved upon to clearly delineate when a completed application should be received by staff prior to the expiration of the current permit.
Okay, I guess, Madam Chair, just to kind of conclude my remarks, it's unfortunate that the expiration falls right at the height of tourist season here in New Mexico. And being a former mayor, I know how important these rideshare programs are, particularly now as we're coming out of this pandemic. And so I think both sides, the agency and these rideshare companies and other permit holders, need to do their due diligence and get their paperwork and payment in at least 15 days before the expiration of their permit. In terms of the order that's being proposed, I think it's a good measured response to this. I believe Lyft made a good faith effort. Following up with a snail mail check, I think was a bit lame, but I think the order is reasonable. So, Madam Chair, I will support the order as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Maestas. Those comments are very helpful. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, did you have any comments? It seems like everybody else's comment. Well, I haven't, but how about, do you have any comments?
Yeah. Yes, I have a question for Hans. When we have agenda items placed on a proposed agenda, like this particular action that we're discussing, are the commissioners allowed to speak to staff? And do you know whether it's the right thing to do, Hans?
It looks like Judy wants to, I'll let Judy handle the ex parte communication response to that. Judy?
Yeah, thank you. At this point, because it could potentially become a litigated case, the commissioners cannot speak with staff except if it was at a noticed hearing and the other parties had the opportunity to also be present and respond. So if the commission would like to set this matter for a hearing, that could be done. That being said, if the commissioners would like to ask staff general procedural questions, not necessarily that may, relate to this case, but may or may not, I believe that staff could answer those types of questions. So were you wanting to ask staff a question relating to this case in particular, or just a general question, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar?
Thank you, Judy. Well, we just heard from Commissioner Maestas that he was involved in a discussion Friday evening regarding the insurance issue on this particular case. Is this allowed?
Commissioner
Vicente Aguilar, I can assure you that that discussion was with me as the attorney in Office of General Counsel, and no staff members were present on that phone call.
Can you repeat that? No staff members were present?
No staff members were a part of that phone call.
Okay,
I believe
so
I even believe at the time Commissioner Maestas was at trying to enjoy a dinner, which I interrupted. So I assure you that no staff members were involved in that phone call. It was strictly between Commissioner and Office of General Counsel communication only.
Thank you very much, Hans. I think from now on, it would be prudent that General Counsel's office call for all commissioners to be present if they have a question on any particular case. And that's my comment. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
So just in further discussion here. So to make it clear, I'm not asking to change the order either. I had talked to Mr. Mueller yesterday and was in agreement with what he was proposing. I just also wanted to make it clear that there's a distinction between willful negligence of the law, the rules, and ignorance of the law and the rules. And furthermore, we had a fairly lengthy and robust discussion on Friday. I too was involved with that. So it was Commissioner Maestas, myself, and OGC. And initially, I was not in favor of the cease and desist. But as we talked through all the possible scenarios, one of the things that came up, and Hans, be ready to throw your hands up if I'm going out of bounds. But one of the concerns that finally came up towards the end of discussion, as Commissioner Maestas mentioned, was insurance. The fact was they were operating without a permit to operate, and insurance is always looking for a reason not to uphold their end of the bargain. And so that was what changed my mind, is that could put potential customers in jeopardy, that if something happened, and then they would be stuck without insurance backup. And so that's why, and I think that was really the selling point for all of us to decide the cease and desist was appropriate. Despite what their attorney says, we all know how insurance is looking for a reason. You're a minute late on payment. Oh, well, you're not covered on your accident. So anyway, it was a serious discussion at 5:30 to 6 something on Friday. And a lot of points were made at that time. It wasn't a decision that was taken lightly, knowing what Lyft service provides. But I think that we are doing the very best we can with the basket of eggs we were handed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Byrd. I'm glad to hear the details of that. And I tend to agree with you. I think we're being nice here to the company by not imposing the fine. They were in the wrong. Yes, they made a mistake. And yes, they had been timely in the past. So, I see the decision. I'm okay with the decision this time, I guess, to just say, let's just waive this, assuming they comply in the future. I mean, I believe that's contingent on timely compliance in the future, isn't it, Hans? Is there some contingency attached to that waiver?
That's correct. I'm asking them to fill out next year's renewal package completely, including payment by July 5th. And I realize the day before is July 4th. So we should really do it even earlier, but I'm giving them July 5th.
Okay. Yes, and that does raise the issue that was brought up by Commissioner Maestas, that this is a unfortunate time, but since it is the top of tourist season, and also another thing Commissioner Maestas said I think is important for us, and that is why couldn't they have made payment electronically? That was one of the first things I thought of. I mean, nobody should be relying on just mail these days when a payment is involved to keep your license operating and keep you in business. So if we don't have that kind of mechanism available, I think we should create it right away. Anyhow, that's just my opinion there. But I support the motion as well. So I think if nobody else has anything else to say, we should take
Madam
the
Chair.
roll. Yes, Commissioner Myers.
But again, we need to be really aware of this 15-day window. And so if we don't change that and make it mandatory that the whole package payment and the application be submitted prior to 15 days, prior to permit expiration, then I think we're just spinning our wheels. And if you've ever flown Southwest Airlines, if you check your bag within 45 minutes of flight time, they send you an automatic message saying there's no guarantee your bag is going to fly with you. So, so that's why I think we ought to apply that same principle to this 15-day window.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you brought that up again. Yes, I totally agree with that. It's easy to email a notice. In fact, when I worked in the insurance division, there was an annual filing that had to be made. I forget the nature of it. And actually, I think the insurance division even sent out reminders in advance. Through email. But I think we should have a mechanism like that as well. I think we should try to do what we can to help regulated entities comply. But we need to, make sure that they comply on time. So are you proposing to amend the order in any way, Vice Chair?
No, not me. I don't know if Commissioner Byrd wants to make any suggested changes to the fine, the contingency fine, but I'm okay to go with it as presented.
Okay, fine. Well, so Judy, can you take the roll? I think we're done with discussion.
Madam
yes.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Thank you. I think the proposal that's on the agenda, it was discussed with two commissioners through the General Counsel's office. And there's a reason why cases are put on the proposed agenda. And there should be no discussion with the commissioners prior to the open meeting. And it seems the way that it is set up right now, this is the proposed order through the General Counsel's office with a discussion with two commissioners. And I think that is inappropriate. So, Madam Chair,
Mhm.
I feel differently about this particular case. I feel that Lyft should be fined higher than $500 a day because it's only a slap on the hand. As Hans Mueller indicated, that Lyft has been filing on time the last 5 years. And they very well know when the deadline is. Why do they allow the regulatory agency to negotiate and have discussions in terms to how they would like to submit their application or paying their fine? So I think, as Hans Mueller indicated, that there is a procedure right after we vote today that is going to go to the hearing examiner. And I will be looking forward to get a full report from the hearing examiner, how all these discussions transpired. So I would go with a higher fine. That's how my vote is going to go today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Vice Chairman.
if I
Yes.
may, just to clarify the discussions that we had Friday evening in the middle of my dinner with OGC and Commissioner Byrd was to determine a course of action in response to staff's recommendation for a cease and desist. And that was a reason for the issuance of a single signature order to that effect. I think Commissioner Byrd signed it. So that discussion was not about today's action. It was about the response to staff's recommendation. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Maestas. Well, thank you, everybody, for your comments. Are there any more, or can we proceed to the vote? Okay, Judy, can you take the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
No.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
The order passes 4-0, 4-1.
Thank you, Judy. I appreciate it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Hans for just keeping at least me, and it seems like the rest of the commission, up to date on what was happening with this matter. And, feeling comfortable with the direction we've taken. So thank you, Hans, for the good work.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman, too. I think it's a good remark. I personally feel like everything that was done regarding this case was handled correctly. I understand, and it's not just that I personally feel it. I know it. I understand what the steps were and in what order they were taken. And I also think that it's not inappropriate for commissioners to communicate with General Counsel when an item has been put on the agenda. To the contrary, I think we should if we have any questions. So I just want to reassure General Counsel's office and Mr. Mueller that I think everything was done quite properly, and I appreciate the detail and thoroughness he's provided in analyzing our options and the full discussion we've had as to what's the right way to proceed, considering the company's responsibility and our responsibility at every step. So I think this was a very well discussed and decided case. So having said that, let's move on to the next item. Let's see. Does anybody want to take a break? I notice it's 10 minutes till 11. Does anybody want to take a?
Madam Chair, can we vote?
Did we not take the roll on this?
We did. It passed 4-1.
Oh, we
Yeah.
did. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, I want to vote on a break.
Sounds like we got a blood sugar issue.
No, I want to vote on a break.
Sounds like we got a blood sugar issue there. Uh, Why don't we take a 5-minute break and come back, and then we'll be ready to start talking about the work plan issue. Okay? Let's see. So let's come back at 10:55. Does that work for everybody, or do you need 10 minutes instead of 5? That's a question.
5 is good.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much. We'll see you at 10:55. Well, it's 10:55. I think we should get started if we have everybody here, and we don't. I see the hearing room looks empty. So I'll give it another minute or two. Oh, okay. Okay, I think we're all here, so let's resume. Our next item is Roman numeral 10, discussion and potential action items. And we previously had withdrawn from the agenda item number 6 under that, related to the Energy Transition Act supplemental report. So we're on item number 7, the PRC work plan review. And we're going to have a discussion of it. I don't know, Judy, who is someone going to present this work plan, or how are we proceeding here on this?
It was prepared by your assistant, Colin.
Mhm.
And if we can put it on the screen, I believe that you could go through it. I don't know if Colin prepared it with track changes or clean, or if he has 2 versions.
Well, I guess I was expecting that we would have proceeded the way we have in the past, where we have division directors talking about their plans. And this is a little different. This is all compiled. Well, actually, I thought the beginning part of it looked like information that had come from General Counsel's office. But we can certainly, are you suggesting Colin go through this? I mean, he was really the recipient of the information, but he's not the originator of it.
Well, if he has a track changes version, he could put the track changes version up alongside the clean version.
Madam Chair, can I weigh in? Because I actually sent the final version to the commissioners this morning, because I was the last person making updates to it. This is, of course, the work plan that Commissioner Maestas prepared with the commission and input from staff and OGC at the beginning of the year. And what we're doing is, giving the half-year update, halfway into the year. To see where, or more than halfway, to show where we are. So those are the types of edits that were made. Some things that have already been taken care of, adjudicative matters, and rulemaking, such as community solar, they've been taken off as things to do because they're done. And some things that were indicated as things to do in the first or second quarter. Some of those things have been done. Some of those things, have moved into the third or fourth quarter, given the workload. So those are the type of updates that have been made, just bringing it up to date for this sort of half year mark.
Well, that's helpful. I appreciate that. I would like to go through it, and I can lead our discussion myself. That's fine. But I would like for the appropriate people in staff to chime in where necessary, so that you can fill in the discussion, or at least the information that we may need to have to discuss. I see at the beginning the caseload is listed, and I see what's listed. The thing that I find kind of missing here is kind of a timeline. can OGC, somebody from OGC, it could be you, Russell, you might be the logical guy to
Yes.
comment.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair. So the original work plan was laid out like this. That first section was prepared by John Reynolds and staff to give just a nice table that briefly describes all the major, basically adjudicatory matters, plans, et cetera, renewable plans, CCNs, et cetera, that were expected to be filed or had to be required to be filed, this year. And so that doesn't give any information except, these broad categories of types of filings, IRPs, Renewable Energy Act, CCNs, et cetera. And then an idea of who among the IOUs and even some co-ops we'd be expecting applications from. In terms of timing, if you look below, if you continue looking at the caseload part, you'll see we've stricken out certain things that have already been done. For instance, the EP, there was an EP abandonment matter. That was the abandonment of Rio Grande Unit 6. That's in the third column. I have struck that out. So we actually left those on there, but struck them out so you can see that progress that has been made. You can see also in that same column, because it includes IRPs, P&M IRP, the SPS IRP have been taken care of. Then below, you'll see that at the beginning of this year, when the work plan came out, there were projected specific items and dockets which correspond to what's above in the caseload table. There was first quarter, second quarter. Of course, we've done first and second quarter. So a lot of those things have just been taken care of, like the things that have been crossed out. And you can see what we have for third and fourth quarter. That corresponds to what's above. Again, these are not all of our matters. It was basically a focus on the IOUs and like the gas company rate case, et cetera. So it's not every matter that we have. It doesn't include, I don't think, transmission, the transmission cases that may be out there. But it gives you an idea of some of the major matters that we have, EP, P&M. And so there are a couple of things that I handle EP matters. There were a couple of things that, most of the things we had up there for first and second quarter were completed in first and second quarter. A couple of things have moved into the third and fourth quarter. So like the energy efficiency plan, et cetera. So you see what's there for the rest of the year. And then certain things are in the beyond 2022 category, 3 EPE matters. One of them being the renewable energy plan, because just today, the commission on the consent agenda approved a second extension of the filing deadline for EPE's renewable energy plan to August 1st in light of supply chain problems. So that obviously will not be completed by the end of the year. We expect that to be completed in 2022. So that gives you an idea of what's in these categories. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, go ahead.
In addition, you can see that, as Russell was saying, what was completed by looking at what has been crossed out. And I'm trying to find a copy of the work plan. If you go down, you can see that some matters that we thought would be done on the first or second quarter, in particular, P&M's Palo Verde Replacement Resource case 21-00215 UT and P&M's request for regulatory asset for Palo Verde stranded assets 21-00083. Those we thought might get done in the first or second quarter. They've now been moved to the third quarter. So that's a change. And then in addition, if you look up in the beginning part pertaining to SPS, we concluded the IRP, and we did conclude the PNM IRP, and now there's a new matter for SPS regarding their standby rate, and that's a leftover issue from their rate case that was done in case number 20-00238. And in addition, we've gotten SPS's grid modernization application.
So Judy, that rate matter of, oh yes, I see. Is that, did you say that was 22-00155?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
All
a
right.
new that was added. I don't think that will get done by the end of the year, but it's a new matter, so we put it on there.
Okay,
And
what was the next one you mentioned that was an SPP case, SPS case as well?
they filed their grid modernization application.
Uh-huh.
And so that we're going to be working on sending that to a hearing examiner very shortly. I would say next meeting. And we're expecting PNM's grid modernization application in October, pursuant to an order. They asked for an extension, and we gave them a partial extension, and I believe they'll be filing it in October. I don't, if you want to go to the next page and go to the rulemakings, you can see that we finished the PURPA rulemaking, which I consider to be a major accomplishment of my career. And
Congratulations.
Russell finished the community solar rulemaking, which is a major accomplishment of his career. However, it's under
Congratulations, everyone.
And for the Community Solar Action Team in general.
Specifically, yes. And for Commissioner Maesta specifically.
However, it's under appeal now.
Thanks.
And you know, the other rulemakings that are still pending are listed there, and I mean, everyone can see them. There's an interconnection rulemaking, transportation electrification, an IRP rulemaking, a follow-up rulemaking regarding Rule 572, which is the Renewable Portfolio Standard Rule, institutional operator service provider, state rural universal service fund, pipeline safety, excavation damage. There's a rulemaking regarding RPS compliance for rural electric cooperatives. There's an energy efficiency rulemaking, which is not a decoupling rulemaking. I see that crossed out. Did you cross that out?
Yes, I crossed it out because there was a pending appeal, of course, by PNM and also by CCAE and REIA, Renewable Energy Industries Association. They both filed appeals that have been consolidated. Appeals of the commission's order that adopted Anthony's RD. That's on appeal. So we wouldn't be undertaking a rulemaking with a major question out there like that. So I took out the decoupling portion of that energy efficiency rulemaking.
Okay. Then there's as I said, an RPS rulemaking for rural electric cooperatives. We have the pending Rule 440 and Rule 592 amendments. And then we have case number 22-00099, compliance reporting rulemaking that was recently opened. Regarding the potential rulemakings, as you can see, we have a lot of pending rulemakings. So I'm not sure whether any potential ones will be getting done prior to the end of the year. Pending inquiries.
Judy,
Yes.
would this be a good time to, before you go on to pending inquiries, that I give a quick update on the rulemakings underway?
No,
That-
let's finish first, Steve, and then let's go back because I want updates too. Or I don't care. The issue of updates is an issue I want to talk about, but if she can if she can tell you quickly, that's fine. Go ahead. That's fine.
I'm not sure why this is entitled pending inquiries because it references cases pending, like the Corona Wind case, which is pending, and the Atrisco Solar case, which is pending. So that might want to be re-entitled. I'm not sure even why that is there because we have a lot of pending cases and the rest of them are not there. That being said,
but excuse me, Commissioner Fishman, didn't you want to know about pending rulemakings? I thought you said.
Well, I was just going to give an update on 3 of the rules.
Okay.
I just figured in case the commission wanted to know.
Well, I think we'll have an opportunity to do that.
I can do it at the end. That's fine.
Okay.
Let Judy continue and I'll just do it at the end.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean, I think the policy issues are fairly self-explanatory in the sense that they are ongoing policy issues. I don't have the resource adequacy. We have biweekly meetings. I don't know who is in charge of pandemic impact mitigation efforts, arrearages and supply chain issues. I do not know. I'm
Is
under
that the OGC training plan you're talking about? I don't know what paragraph you're talking about, Judy.
under policy issues.
Yes. Under
Second.
operational issues down here, OGC's training plan.
No, I'm under policy issues.
Yes, I'm seeing that. Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's
Oh, the second bullet.
yeah, I don't know
Okay,
who's
fine.
I also do not know who is in charge of the federal infrastructure funding execution obligations. It looks like working with NMPRC is a task regarding funding of the broadband is Commissioner.
Judy, I can weigh in on this if you'd like me to.
Okay,
Yes, so the bullet point, the fourth and fifth bullet points are related, and they're also related to the rulemaking proceeding that's mentioned in the rulemakings to amend the SRUSF rule, State Rural Universal Service Fund rule, to get it in line with last year's 2021 legislation that established the Connection New Mexico Council and these other coordinate the Office of Broadband Expansion and Access within NMPRC. And we've already been working with our telecom staff has been in contact with them, coordinating, providing, letting them know what we're doing in our application, broadband program application dockets and our history. And they're actually looking to our rule as guidance for them. And they're also now working with a lot of federal infrastructure money for broadband. So they're dealing with a lot and we're helping them where we can. And I will be bringing the rulemaking that's already open before the commission soon. Staff has done a lot of work on that, and it's just been sitting on my desk. But we'll bring our rule in line with the recent legislation. But we're already doing a lot of coordination, so we're really taking care of that. I'm not sure under the third bullet point, establish contact with infrastructure appointees for broadband and infrastructure. We have done that. We've spoken to Matt Schmidt. I hope I have that right. Yes, he's the governor's broadband czar, and we actually gave him a lot of the applications from last year that were not the commission didn't have enough funding to grant, and I believe they're looking into infrastructure funding for that, but they're inundated dealing with a lot about with the federal money and all of that. So I'm not expecting anything soon, but we are in contact. We are coordinating. We're doing everything we can. And so that's where that stands. I really don't know what that second bullet point is. Potential interagency agreements. I don't recall what that was. That was originally on the work plan. So I'm not sure about that, but we're definitely doing everything we need to do.
Russell, excuse me. You said the second bullet part.
I'm sorry. The second clear on the third bullet point. I'm sorry. The assist, lead, federal infrastructure, et cetera. The first part I understood, establish contact with infrastructure appointees. And like I said, we have done that. We've let them know about applications that we weren't able to fund in case they could find funding. That second part, I'm not sure. The interagency agreements, I don't know what that part was about, or it might not have even ever been related to broadband. I don't know. It was from the original work plan earlier this year. But otherwise, the third, fourth, and fifth bullet points there were totally on target for all the coordination we need to do.
Well, that's important to know. I'm glad to know that. Let's see, third, fourth bullet, and fifth on target. Okay. So where do we leave off there, Judy? We're in the middle of this.
Yes, the statewide coordination of transportation and electrification.
Which bullet is that here? Show me the.
It looks like it's highlighted. Initiate statewide coordination of transportation electrification.
Yeah.
Initiate. I'm sure there's someone. Commissioner Maestas may be able to speak to this. Is that correct?
That's correct. And as I'm listening, as we go through this work plan, maybe Madam Chair, the first step should be providing an update on all of these, a written update, not a verbal update. And then I think from that update, we can identify what realistic items we can accomplish over the course of the next 6 months or so. Just a suggestion, but if you want me to, I can give a brief update on transportation electrification.
Yes, that would be very nice. And then I appreciate your other comments, and I would like to have a discussion such as that. Once we get through this list, we might as well go through the list now, but because it brings things to top of mind, I think. So please proceed with that brief update, and then we'll go on.
Yeah, I would say all these, the main bullet and the sub bullets have been done. We as an agency took the lead in cooperation with GridWorks and hosted a transportation summit to bring basically kind of utility interveners together with kind of your non-traditional partners like the New Mexico Department of Transportation to talk about the need for the statewide plan for federal statewide plan for transportation electrification to ensure it dovetails in with the 3 pre-approved transportation electrification plans of all the 3 IOUs. We also had a pre-rulemaking stakeholder engagement workshop that was very successful. We have actually drafted a rule. We've already met to discuss potential changes. So in terms of any external coordination on transportation electrification, I think that's been done. We do have Mary Jane Parks, who is one of our Solar Innovator Fellows, who is the liaison between the agency and the Transportation Climate Action Team, otherwise known as TCAT. So we are still attending ongoing meetings with other state agencies, and we're proceeding in issuing a NOPR soon on transportation electrification.
Super. Thank you so much, Commissioner Vice Chair Maestas. So Judy, you want to proceed there after his
yes.
the next bullet? advanced metering infrastructure. Can you come? I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's on the agenda in
Well,
this piece of paper.
what I can say is that, as I stated earlier, PNM will be filing a grid modernization plan application and in October. And part of that order was asking PNM to include an advanced metering infrastructure component. I can speak to that. Regarding EPE, I'd ask Russell to weigh in.
Yes, the EPE grid modernization application is pending before a hearing examiner, Elizabeth Hurst, and I believe it's in the post-hearing briefing stage. So we should have an RD. I don't know if there's a stipulation soon. And then there's, as you recall, something we could probably add here. I believe SPS has filed an application pursuant to an order of the commission that they filed an application. Is that correct, Judy?
Yes, they have a grid modernization application. As I said, that we're going to send it to a hearing examiner next week. And that also has an AMI a component.
So we can add that to this work plan.
I don't think either one of those things will get done by the end of the year, but they're in process.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, this section of the work plan, I don't know if they have to be done by the end of the year. That sorry, the sections above where they're actually like where it says third quarter and fourth quarter, those are things that are expected to be completed in those quarters. Whereas my understanding of the rest of the work plan was that we list things that we were working on or would plan to be working on, even if they weren't finished. That was my understanding, but that could be just my understanding.
No, that's the way I understood it too. We only put down things that we knew would get done by the third or fourth quarter, and we probably could add to the fourth quarter. We have certain, there'll be certain renewable portfolio standard cases that will get done by the end of the year, by the fourth quarter. So that might be something to add to the work plan in the fourth quarter.
Sounds like it. Okay. Judy, are you?
Yeah, I can keep
prepared to go on.
We're into operational issues, and I think these are all ongoing, and we have made some progress. For instance, in the compliance tracking, that case number 22-00099 is the rulemaking that was recently filed, and I think Hans has that case, so he could probably give you an update on that. Regarding filling all the slots for the Commissioner Advisory Services Group, we have hired Mr. John Olmsted, who you've heard from. He is an accountant advisor, and we're still in the process of working on an economic advisor. Quality assurance peer review backup approach in OGC and other advisory groups, that is ongoing. And it's very important. I wish we had more time. We're still shorthanded, as everyone knows. And so that is definitely an ongoing operational issue. Second note of PRC servers, I don't know anything about that. I'm sure Miguel could update you on that. Consider full electronic records. I think that relates to what Commissioner Maestas was saying. We don't have the software right now to have electronic payments. And that might be, I don't know how expensive it is. So I think that is a component of the full electronic records filing docketing system. But again, someone from IT would be better situated to talk about that. OGC's training plan. These are, again, ongoing. We actually all are going to the bar conference in August. Okay, on to technological issues.
Judy, just to correct that, I don't think we're going to the bar conference. We're doing the current, what is it? Not current, the energy in the Southwest or electric power in the Southwest conference in
Right.
August. Yes.
I knew I was going to something in August. Thank you for the correction.
Oh, Russell, let me ask you about that. Energy in the Southwest, that's the LSI.
Yes.
Law
It used to be
Seminars
by,
International.
yes. It used to be by CCAE or WRA, and I think they're still involved in some way. But
WRA
now it's Law
was.
Seminars International that actually sort of puts it together.
Okay, so fine, thank you. And that's in August? I want to go.
Yes, August. I don't recall the dates. I have to look at my calendar here.
That's all right. I'll check with you later.
Okay.
Regarding
Judy.
the
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Maestas.
Yeah, just before we leave operational issues, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, I had indicated that I felt that the agency really needs to explore requiring alternate dispute resolution techniques in certain cases. I think we've seen a lot of cases that have dragged on due to legal impasse. And I've asked Christopher Hall to start crafting a potential policy for consideration by the full commission. In fact, I believe statute requires us to do that, to try and establish policies and procedures to streamline our work. And so, Christopher Hall, can you just very, very briefly just kind of explain where you're at in that?
Yes, Vice Chair. Madam Chair, members of the commission. I have started working and exploring some of the various forms of ADR. I've looked at ADR in other utility commissions around the country. Judy and I have had some preliminary discussions as well. And just quickly, the idea that we came up with just in terms of efficacy, because we don't think there's time to do a full rulemaking of our actual policies, official operational policies as far as this goes in the code. We were going to work on promulgating or crafting a sort of pilot policy that the commission could adopt just as a sort of a policy that is not part of its official rules, I suppose, that would pilot ADR and mediation in maybe one or two specific sort of instances, primarily complaints, customer complaints, just to sort of get a sense of how this works and what it would cost to have maybe a third-party administrator available to help mediate some of these things. I will note as well that the commission has adopted on its own a policy or a de facto policy of engaging in workshops prior to rulemakings, which is actually one of the main forms of alternative dispute resolution. It's like a preemptive alternative dispute resolution that many commissions engage in because it allows for the parties to meet with each other and discuss potential roadblocks even before a number is issued. And so I would point out that the commission is already engaging in some of that. And I think that that's certainly commendable. And I stand for any further questions.
Thank you, Christopher. I think we should go forward. I don't have any questions unless anybody else does, but I think we need to get through this list. So I ask people to hold questions until we at least get through the list. And then we have to go back to Commissioner Fishman because he has comments to make, I believe. So if we could just put those questions in abeyance for now and just keep working through the list at this point. So who can talk about technological issues here is, Judy, do you want to proceed through this? It doesn't.
These are again, just ongoing issues that we definitely need education and expertise on. They include battery storage, transmission and distribution capacity management, including smart inverters, smart meters, emergency demand response systems and technologies, new line loss reduction, transmission and distribution technologies, protection of increasingly sophisticated grid management data systems, distributed generation and storage, such as leveraging distributed generation and storage aggregation opportunities and creating fair market opportunities for distributed generation. Then in bold is the need for staff resources and training to be able to conduct and critique computer modeling for electric resource procurements, ongoing training on grid modernization, transportation, electrification, and community solar administration and implementation. I think these are going to be issues that we need agency expertise and training on for many years to come. But that being said, as you know, OGC is going to continuing legal education, and I think staff could update the commission on the training that they've undergone.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have no knowledge, but someone from utility division could report on that. Do you want me to go on to other?
Yeah, I'll just finish up.
A statewide independent evaluator of energy efficiency programs. There's a current contract, and the current evaluator has been in that role for 6 years, and we need to issue an RFP to extend a contract. And staff could provide an update on the issuance of the RFP. I don't have any personal knowledge of that either.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I appreciate you going through that list. And Commissioner Fishman, if you wanted to make your comments or updates or whatever it was you were intending to do. I realized I start after I said, oh, let's press on, then I was accepting updates. So we better go through what you have to say as well.
Okay, so just real quickly on 3 rulemakings, just a little more detail on the status. On procurement IRP, the record is closed, and actually we're getting very close to having a finalized rule in place. And there was a lot of input, and actually a lot of that input has been responded to and accepted in terms of the ongoing rule. And just directionally, basically what we're trying to do is encourage collaboration rather than litigation. And there's sort of a culture of litigation that's built into everything at the commission. And in the way this rule is going, we're just trying to get more collaboration and get more transparency. And I think most of the commissioners have been at some point or another dismayed to find out we find out about things really late in the process. And what this rule is going to be focusing on is getting earlier notification of things going on. It will not be creating new opportunities for litigation. It will not be requiring commission approvals that are new commission approvals. But it will be doing is providing lots of opportunities for input by the commission and by stakeholders in existing processes. So that's kind of the philosophically the direction that this final rule will be taking. And actually, I'm pretty excited that we found a nice middle ground here that is responsive to everybody's concerns. So expect something there in the next few weeks to come forward. On the renewable portfolio standard rule, just real quickly, final comments are coming in and we'll be responsive to that. And remember, this is just a cleanup of the renewable portfolio standard rule. We had 3 or 4 issues that parties wanted to defer so we could quickly get the legally mandated stuff out of the way, which the commission did. So within probably 6 weeks or so, we'll have that, something like that in front of the commission on those final outstanding issues. And again, I want to remind folks, my assistant Robert is doing a lot of the coordinating work on this. So if you have comments to make, please feel free to contact him and be sure you get your thoughts in. Finally, I wanted to talk about the Rule 440 and Rule 592. That's the on projects that capital projects that we don't approve at the commission, but that we get noticed on by the utilities. We found all kinds of shortfalls in that reporting to where it actually becomes misleading rather than helpful in terms of figuring out what's going on with utilities. So again, the focus on that rule has been how do we just get information that's clear and accurate in front of the commission early in the process rather than late? And how do we make sure that this data is actually accurate? Because there's been a lot of problems with that. And actually, there's a lot of consensus around this rule. And again, we're getting very close, again, probably 4 to 6 weeks that we'll have something in front of the commission to vote on. So I just wanted to give the update on those 3 rules. And these are ones that I think we want to bring to a conclusion before the end of the year and hopefully before the end of the quarter. So that's the update.
That's helpful, Commissioner Fishman. I really appreciate that knowledge. And, you know, I really appreciate General Counsel and my assistant and everybody leaping in here to try to put this together again. I guess I think it's a very comprehensive list of what lies ahead. The thing that I feel, and maybe it's just the way I think, but I certainly appreciate other people's comments, is I feel one thing that would be a useful addition would be some sort of a timeline so we could at least see how some of these cases will occur in terms of, hearings and whatnot, because it could give sort of a visual of where at least the parties or the staff resources are going to be devoted during various months in the next, during this fall until the end of December. Without being able to see things spread out over time, I feel like we still can't quite try to attempt to plan, around things that have to get done according to their own time constraints. And so I would like to see this brought back with something a little bit more specific with respect to, I guess, what I envision as kind of the competing timeframes of a number of these cases. And I realize in saying that it represents a certain amount of work that somebody would have to do. And I'm sitting here wondering who that would be and if other people even agree with me in terms of wanting to see a timeline. But I think it would be useful for us to be able to prioritize where we put our energy in the last 5 months now that we'll have 5 months and a week, I think, less than a week. Because, this is a very comprehensive and ambitious, I think, in a good way, list of things to accomplish. And we certainly, I think we know we won't be able to get everything accomplished. But if we're smart about how we use our time, we might be able to get more accomplished than not. So I think what I'd like to do is, is to ask for responses at this point from other commissioners if they have any comments about anything that we've heard and seen. If you want to make certain comments about certain items, or if you want to talk about, my timeline idea or any other idea you can think of, please feel free to start commenting. Does anybody have anything to say about how we focus on what we're going to be doing in the next 5.5 months? Well, let me ask this. Does anybody have any objection to having a timeline brought back to us just so we can see where all this work lies on a calendar? Any objections?
I think it's a great idea. Madam Chair, I think it's a great idea to have a timeline, and a timeline will probably help us hone in on the must-haves.
Yeah.
Versus the nice-to-haves in terms of the end of the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Commissioner, yes, who was that? Was that Commissioner Byrd?
No, it's Colin.
Oh, Colin. Okay.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I can follow up with OGC and other commissioners and possibly Miguel and see if we can come up with a tool or a calendar. Maybe we could all just share some type of planning tool where we can input updates as they come up.
Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you, Colin. That's swell. Thank you very much.
Okay, I don't want to overpromise, Madam Chair, but yeah, we'll at least get a calendar together, a timeline.
Okay, great. That's great. And well, Commissioner Maestas, I have a question for you. You made a comment about bringing having a written description of, and I forget which item it was, and I thought you might have meant that more generally too. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I guess what I was suggesting, Madam Chair, is that we provide a written assessment in this current work plan as it exists, and then that could be kind of a springboard to a discussion to identify, goals for the final year, or even, beyond December 31st. So that was my suggestion. And I think Colin agreed to maybe circulate the work plan and make some assignments. And I'm happy to do my part to update any portion of the current work plan that involves what I've been doing So I'm happy to help.
Okay, great. And when you say an assessment, and you said a written assessment, so you mean for like each point on this it would be an explanation of where we are on each point we have described here.
Sure. Yeah. If it's complete, just delete it. But if it's still ongoing, what's the status? Is there any interim, milestone actions that are needed?
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a good idea. I appreciate that. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, do you have any comments?
Well, excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a work plan that started 2 years ago, and we're in the midst of solidifying the work plan. It's very good. And yes, I would like to just read more about the assessment as time becomes available and when the material becomes available. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. Commissioner Byrd, any thoughts you can add?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other comments or discussions, then I think we're finished with that item. Let's move on to communications with Chief of Staff. Do we have Chief of Staff here today? Oh, here he is.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission.
Good morning.
First of all, wanted to start off by saying congratulations. I mean, we can always do more. We can always do better. But anybody who has sat through the last half hour or so realizes how much the commission has accomplished really in 7 months, 6 months. And staff as well. And thank you to OGC for helping walk through that. Madam Chair, I agree. I don't have a great idea, but I agree that there may be a better format to present this in that allows the commission to track it a little bit easier. And there are a couple of updates that I should have included in here under operational issues, and I apologize. I'll make sure that we have those in the next iteration of this, but a lot of good stuff. So congratulations. I don't have a lot, Madam Chair and members of the commission. I wanted to note that the Interim Water and Natural Resources Committee has begun to meet. They had their inaugural meeting this month. We weren't on that agenda, but I do anticipate that we will be on future agendas during the interim, and I would be surprised if they don't ask us in particular for an update on the Community Solar Act. So as soon as the August agenda comes out, I'll make sure that we get that out to commissioners and staff so we can be prepared for any items that the committee wants us to update them on over the interim. And then the last thing, Madam Chair, members of the commission, it's that time of the year again when we kick off our annual audit for FY23. We are having our entrance conference this afternoon. So staff, particularly ASD staff, will be quite busy over the next few months preparing our FY23 audit. As soon as we have any indication of how that audit is looking, we of course will share it, but we may not really have that until the audit is brought back before the commission, which will likely occur in late October.
Okay.
And with that, Madam Chair, happy to discuss any other topics you would like.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Does anybody have any questions or topics they want to bring up with Wayne right now? I'm not hearing anything, Wayne, so I think you're free for now. Thank you for your communications. Okay, communications with General Counsel.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, at this point, we do not have anything in particular, except I know that you mentioned there was going to be a presentation at next week's meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, and I meant to ask you how many, what is the agenda can you guys predict how busy the agenda will be at this point?
We are having an RD presentation in the Palo Verde case,
Mhm.
21-00215, and a potential final order that
Mhm.
was scheduled. In addition, we were, hold on. In addition, we were told by Commissioner Maestas that there's going to be a special open meeting for a presentation by CAISO the next day on August 4th, because it's I guess it's a rather long presentation. So that's just what's coming up. I have 2 other matters that I was going to place on consent. I don't know exactly what Hans and Russell have scheduled. The RD that I mentioned was going to be presented by, as I said, Christopher Ryan, and then the order was going to be presented by Mike Smith.
And what was that case on?
That is 21-00215. That's a Palo Verde, part 2 of the RD.
And that's just for presentation. That's this. Is that for discussion, or it's just a presentation, or what?
It's a presentation of the RD and a potential final order. That, as you recall, that case has already had a final order on part 1, which was approval of the replacement resources. This was an outstanding issue that the RD addressed, that the commission never ruled on that particular one outstanding issue. But the approval of the replacement resources is a final order already.
Okay, so then, so we already have the final order, or we
Yes.
still have to make, but this, all right,
This
so
is an outstanding
potential issue.
Bifurcated issue.
Yes, yes, okay. Well, then it sounds like we may need to schedule a deliberative session, a closed deliberative session on that.
Well, we have talked to many commissioners, and in this particular instance, the ones that I spoke with did not want a closed session on that. But that.
Have you talked to all the commissioners?
I talked to 2, and Mike Smith talked to 2.
I see. Well, we can discuss that otherwise. Okay, let's see.
And lastly, but not leastly, we would like to introduce our new law clerk, Ann Trujillo, and I hope she is here to be formally introduced to the commission. Lori, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Judy.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Lori has been a wonderful addition and sorely needed, and we are so happy she was able to come to us. She has over 20 years experience being a law clerk and a paralegal at many state agencies, most recently at Regulation and Licensing Department, but she's had some fantastic private practice experience, and we are just so lucky to have been able to hire her. So you will be getting to know her. She will be doing the agendas and the notices of open meetings. She will issue single signature orders. She will issue notices of possible quorums. She will issue all the orders that we did at the meeting today and every week. She will help us with all filing our rulemakings at State Records and Archives, and I'm sure many more things. If I forgot something, I'm sorry. But anyway, if the commissioners would like to ask her any questions, I think she's available now.
Commissioners, are there any commissioners that want to make any put any questions to Lori, or just welcome her?
Madam Chair,
Yes. Who spoke?
I'll yield the floor to the gentleman from Las Cruces.
I see.
You're just so kind. And
Vice Chair Mayestas.
he only did that because he wants the last word. But anyway, I just wanted to say welcome, Lori. It's a hardworking, dedicated crew that you're throwing your lot in with. And welcome to the commission, and look forward to working with you.
I look forward to working with all of you.
That's it.
Well, Lori, I would also like to say welcome and echo Commissioner Fishman's comments. It's a really fast-paced office you work in. I'm sure you probably noticed that already, and very demanding. But the people there who you work with are really wonderful people. I can say that, having worked with them for quite some time, and I can't think of a nicer place to work in the agency. They're all nice places to work, I'm sure. But I used to work in General Counsel's office myself, so I know that it can be a real challenge, but it's got to be the most interesting job. So I hope you like it, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. I look forward to working with you too.
Yeah, great. Okay, anybody else have any comments? Yes, Vice Chair Mayestas.
Yeah, I just wanted to welcome Lori Ann. Welcome aboard. I look forward to working with you. Very excited about your background and the energy that you bring to the agency. And since we're on new staff, I also wanted to welcome Molly and Jose, who were introduced earlier, who were a part of the budget and financial team. Welcome aboard. And I look forward to working with you too. That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chair Mayestas. Let's see. Well, fine. I think that's it. Does anybody have any other communications among the commissioners? Anybody have anything to say?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
So we're at communications with commissioners?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you. So SPP just had their quarterly meeting on Monday. It was apparently the busiest meeting RSC has ever had. We had 7 voting items. Usually we have like 1 or 2, but some of them were of interest, I think. One of them was we increased the reserve margin from 12% to 15% starting next year.
Commissioner Byrd, excuse me,
yes,
just to interrupt for a minute. I'm not sure all the commissioners know what RSC stands for. Can you just explain your role there and what it is? I know what it is, but I'm not sure everybody else does.
It's the Regional State Committee on the Southwest Power Pool, which is comprised of commissioners from member states. 1 commissioner from every state. Also, I wanted to, since you brought that up, Mark Tupler has replaced John Reynolds on the Cost Allocation Working Group as our staff member for SPP. And so he's at that proverbial drinking from a fire hose. And for the record, it's been over 3 years. I'm still drinking from the fire hose, but I just let most of it go by. But he's at the point he thinks he needs it all. Anyway, so we increased the reserve margin from 12 to 15%, and it's effective next year, 2023. As you can imagine, pretty much all the stakeholders, which is the member companies, opposed an immediate increase. They wanted a stair step, go 13, 14, 15% over the next 3 years. And it's understandable. Utilities don't plan for next year, right? They plan for 10 years from now, 20 years from now. When they're looking at building a new generation facility, they don't decide on a whim to do it next year because it's just impractical. It takes at least 5 years from the time they decide to build it to actually turning on the switch. So all of a sudden, they're going to have to figure out what to do. The reality is the majority of the member companies already meet the 15%, but there are 12, I believe, that did not. And they will be, the way SPP is going to handle them was that they would get what's called a deficiency payment. From their point of view, it's a penalty for not meeting the reserve margin. That money goes into an account, or they can opt to buy extra capacity from other utilities. But no utility really wants to sell what little extra capacity they have and tie it up, because if they have a unit go down, then they can't make their own reserve margin. So it brought a lot of consternation among utilities. Nobody is surprised. The increase to 15% was accepted wholeheartedly. It was how we got there. The board then passed that on Monday, and so it has now become effective. Excuse me, we passed it on Monday. The board passed that on Tuesday. The other issue is how the performance-based accreditation. We're changing the accreditation from nameplate capacity to performance-based. So just because a plant can produce says it can produce 100,000 watts doesn't mean it ever does. And so they're going to go to an accredited performance-based, and if they only do 96,000 kilowatts, then that's what they will be accredited to produce. When you add those two things together, we increase the reserve margin 3%, and then we may reduce the capacity of through the next process, their capacity to produce electricity may be reduced on paper or based on actual production numbers. That gets them even closer to the 15%. So a lot of concern among utility members that it's going to be close, and the discussions was that this probably isn't the last time that the reserve margin will be increased. When they went down, they used to be at 15%. They moved it down to 12% in 2006. The excess capacity on the system at that time, I believe, don't quote me specifically, but it was around 1 megawatt of excess capacity above the 12%. Now we have 250 to 300 megawatts above the reserve capacity, but it's all from alternative energy sources. And so they're not as, of course, reliable. The impetus for increasing the reserve margin, a big part of that right now is that the retirement of firm power across the footprint of SPP is very concerning that they won't be able to keep the lights on. If you guys saw the notices here in the last week, we've had a heat. It's hot, it's July, and we were close. Everybody was monitoring the output of our supply versus the demand. And as we shut down firm power, those supply demand numbers are going to get even closer. And so in an effort to ensure grid integrity, these are some of the steps that the Southwest Power Pool are putting in place to light a fire, if you will, to ensure that new generation is brought on as soon as possible, or retirements are delayed in order to be replaced by some other form of firm power. There were some other there was the congestion hedging for the DC ties. And that's one of those things you're drinking from a fire hose. The DC ties are between the western grid and the eastern grid. And we have accepted at least a white paper on how we're going to pay for who gets paid when power goes across those ties.
Can you share that white paper, please? That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get a hold of it. It's on the SPP website now.
Okay. Oh, that's all right. That's fine.
So anyway, things will be going to FERC and other parts go to the stakeholder process, but it's busy at the Southwest Power Pool. I have thought about and wanted to ask you guys, Lanny Nickel can go through what has happened over the last few years as far as power supply and explain where we're at. If we're interested in hearing those numbers or not, if you guys just let me know offline.
I think it'd be very interesting. I've heard Lanny talk and he's very good. He makes things very clear. He has wonderful visuals, and I welcome a presentation from him.
Okay.
I know the other commissioners might not know this guy, but I've seen him. Oh, you do. Steve knows.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I'd love to see a presentation.
Yeah.
If he wants to go into more detail, I wouldn't mind if he wants to do a presentation outside of the open meeting in more detail. So
yes,
I'll approach Paul Susky with the Southwest Power Pool, see if we can get kind of an agenda of what the presentation will include, and we can mark it up, see if we want more or less on certain things before we get them in. But I'll talk to them later today as soon as we're out of the meeting, and just see what they can provide to inform us of what's going on and the meaning of what we're doing. So
well,
anyway,
I really
been busy over there, and
yeah,
we're SPP is expanding, and so I say it's not really me, I guess it's them. They're working with, they actually tie into El Paso Electric now. They do some of the planning for them through WISE, the Western Energy Group.
You mean the Western Energy Imbalance Services Group that SPP created?
No, El Paso Electric's a part of.
Oh.
I'll find that map. But anyway.
El Paso Electric is part of Western Energy Imbalance Market in the Western Interconnect. Yeah.
So SPP is doing the analysis of that market for them as a contract service. So they are spreading their wings.
They are.
and have reached way into the Western grid now and continue to grow. And anyway, that's my update for what's going on at Southwest Power Pool. Thank you, Madam
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Fishman.
Just a couple of quick questions. In terms of the SPP planning, was there much discussion of load management opportunities and how that fits into the whole picture?
So they're within their footprint, that is their main objective, is load management. They kind of tell the stakeholders, the energy companies, when and where they need more power, or if they need to use their transmission lines. They are also directly involved with the expansion of energy transmission lines to high use areas. The two main areas right now are like Kansas City, I believe, and the southeast part of New Mexico. SPS's footprint, Lee County Electric, those are both members. But that is really their primary objective of being as an organization, is load management.
I guess I'm thinking, I'll use the term load shifting. Is there much discussion of load shifting resources as being part of what they're engaging in and how they're going to deal with them? Meaning shifting the hours that the load is required.
Yeah, there's been discussions on that. Can we move that around? That's probably a question that Lanny would be able to answer thoroughly.
Okay. And then I'm thinking that for El Paso Electric, just for clarification, were we talking about the Western Energy Coordinating Council? Was that the organization that you were thinking of earlier?
Who are you asking? Are you
No, I
asking?
think it was that
No,
energy.
he's
Western
talking
energy
about,
market.
it's the Western Energy Imbalance market. It's a bilateral trading market right now. It's not the coordinating council. The coordinating council is created under NERC and is responsible for reliability. But it's not a market.
Okay.
And Jeff was referring to the market.
Right.
Okay.
And it's not the same type of market as the Southwest Power Pool, because it's not a full-blown regional transmission organization.
It's just bilateral
market. Bilateral.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Burr, thank you very much. That's so interesting. I really appreciate hearing things about Southwest Power Pool and what's happening. And I'm pretty astounded that got approved, but I'm not surprised. Actually, it's probably it is very necessary under the circumstances. So, and I can imagine the utilities are stressed because of the shortage of electricity there is in the West to be had through contracts. So, but nevertheless, it will light a fire. So I'm really glad. I think that's real good news.
Madam Chair, it was approved by the RSC unanimously.
Wow.
So the whole motion hinged on my vote at the end. And then the board.
What's that? It's not, obviously.
And the board wasn't unanimous, but I guess that's not really public information how they voted, but it was passed by the board as well on Tuesday.
Well, I think their votes, unless they voted in private somehow, I think that is public. At least when I used to go and observe those meetings, the public could watch the board meeting. Is that still true?
Like it was, yes, it is. But the vote is through a straw vote system, anonymously.
Oh,
and then Mr. Susky just says whether it was pass or fail.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's very interesting. And it's timely too, because we're going to be hearing from CAISO, which is in the West kind of viewed by many as a potential competitor with SPP in terms of trying to reach out and create a market, except that CAISO isn't really trying to compete. They so far their legislature is in favor of them just operating within their footprint of the state, unless you want to participate in the Western Energy Imbalance market. But that market is, by creating a day-ahead market, is trying to create, I think, at least the beginnings of a competitive market. It's not the same thing still, but a competitive market with SPP. So I think, I think we've all got the opportunity to sort of raise our level of comprehension of the dynamics that are going on in the West that are directly going to affect our state, are now in terms of resource adequacy, sufficiency, and reliability going forward. And so I'm glad we have these opportunities to get smarter at all this stuff. So thanks for that. And before we stop, I just wanted to bring up something. We did discuss about how Lanny might be able to present in a meeting, in a special meeting since it'll be a pretty long presentation outside our regular commission meetings. I'm in favor of that. And I think those will those would have to be noticed as public, open to the public. So they're great educational opportunities, not only for commissioners, but for staff and for members of the public and the people who practice in front of us. I'm sure they're interested too. And I wanted to bring up the idea the plan to have a presentation put on the agenda next week. And it is actually appropriately a longer presentation than I got them to agree to, because I wanted to be sure they came before the commission at least in a shorter time frame, so the commission would have an understanding about what was happening. But it's a presentation by Sandia Labs, and they've been working on a modeling project to create a tool that will help decision makers like regulators and utility companies help them make decisions about resource mixes going forward. And it's very applicable to our situation in New Mexico, where there are requirements imposed on resources going forward. We have to reach renewable, by the 2045 and 2040, there are very specific requirements. So I wanted to propose that presentation might be provided in a longer. They wanted at least an hour to present it, and it's too long to put on the agenda. But that's one more topic that I think I think we owe it to ourselves to have outside the open meeting agenda, because then it gives us more of a length of time to absorb everything, and there would be more time for questions. So I wanted to maybe throw that out there for you guys to comment on. I could still have them come and maybe do a quick 15-minute short presentation to the commission, just so you know what it's about. And you could decide if you wanted to hear a longer presentation at a later date. So does anybody have any questions about that, or anybody want to make any comments? Commissioner Fishman, I'd be interested, what I'm talking about, if you have any opinion on how that should proceed, because I know we went back and forth about it, but now that we've got two things, the SPP presentation and then the one we have coming up on the 4th, that are going to be outside the open meeting. I don't know whether we should do that too, but I also think that presentations within the open meeting are a good opportunity to snare the audience that's present, actually, and educate them. So
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I personally, I'm real interested on the development of these markets, and I would love to see the longer presentations. I think it's a good idea to at least do a brief presentation for the commission, and just so the public can kind of get the Cliff Notes version of what's going on if they choose to tune in. But obviously, that's at the pleasure of the rest of the commission.
Now, are you referring to the Sandia Labs thing regarding Cliff Notes, or you mean for the SPP presentation?
I'm talking about CAISO and SPP.
Okay. Well, maybe we should do both. I don't know. And make it optional if commissioners don't want a longer one.
That's just my personal preference, but I'm flexible.
Yeah. Well, commissioners, do you have an opinion? I mean, if you'd like to have a Cliff Notes version, 15-minute, 20-minute presentation during open meetings, we could do that as well. I don't know if Lanny wants to make a quick presentation and then a longer one. Commissioner Byrd, you could ask him. And I'm going to make the same ask to Sandia Labs. I don't want to overkill, but on the other hand, these guys have important things to say, especially SPP, I think.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
What if we move the presentation towards the end? Then if they don't want to listen, they can check out. And then we get to hear it.
That's a good idea. We've done that before. Commissioners, thoughts?
That works for me.
Yeah. Me too. You know, it makes it somewhat of a longer day, but on the other hand, it's worth it. And I think it would be a good idea. Commissioner, Vice Chair Myasis, I notice you're not saying anything. Do you have an opinion?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine
Okay.
with a longer presentation. I don't think we should do both. Have them come and do a shorter presentation and then a longer one, both at an open meeting. I think we should just have the longer presentation and allow time for adequate Q&A. I think would be best.
Fine. I actually like that much better myself. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, do you have thoughts on this or not?
Yes, I think a separate presentation will work out fine. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. All right. Well, that's helpful. I appreciate it. We'll get that set up. And Jeff, when did you say you want to have Lanny? We got somebody coming on the 3rd. That's the Sandia Labs thing.
Let me talk to them and see what they have available, and I'll let you know, Madam Chair.
Okay. And we've already got CAISO scheduled for the 4th in a separate meeting. And anybody who wants to go to that can. I mean, obviously it's not case adjudication, it's not rulemaking, so I don't think it's optional. I don't think it's required, but certainly it'd be very informative. And that was already scheduled as a separate meeting. So we're on the calendar for that, but then I will get back to the Sandia Labs folks. And so I think Judy was getting at this. So if we have the Sandia Labs folks go to the end of the calendar, end of the agenda on the 3rd, then we're also going to have, an hour and a half presentation on the 4th. It's okay with me. Is it okay with you guys?
Yes, that is exactly what I was trying to confirm.
Yes. So.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yes. The only request that I would like to ask is that if we can, a while ago I said a separate presentation, but it just came to my mind that I was served with summons to be on a jury duty. And when I responded, I said we normally have our business PRC meetings on Wednesdays. So they excused me for Wednesdays for the month of August. And other than that, they're going to give me 2 days notice to appear for jury duty. So if I don't attend the presentation, you know why. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. And for all I know, we'll be recording it. I don't know. It's possible there'll be a recording. We can certainly arrange for that, I'm sure. So thank you for letting me know. That's great. We'll work with it. So everybody else, are you okay? I don't think it's kind of poisonous or anything. I don't think it'd be too hard to do, but I just wanted to, you okay with it? To have the 3rd and the 4th. We're going to have information sessions both times, both days. I'm not hearing any objections, so I'll assume it's okay. All right. I think we have no other business, so I think.
Madam Chair.
Madam yes,
Chair.
Mr. Fishman, yes.
On communications, just one note. I got in my bill from PNM for my Santa Fe residents. They included this new tool that shows how much energy you used for various purposes in your house. So how much you used for heating, how much you used for water heating, how much you used for AC, whatever. So it listed by category. And the intent there was, I guess, to provide consumers with an ability to figure out where they're using the most energy and how they might be able to cut back if they desire, and what they can do. So, there are things that probably need to be developed on it to make it more useful, but I thought it was a really cool thing to add to the billings and a nice customer service step. And I just wanted to thank PNM for doing that. I think it's a terrific thing, and really interested in hearing what kind of reaction they get to it, and if they, can see any impacts on their system from starting to provide that information. So I just wanted to give a shout out to PNM. Thank you for doing that, and please let us know what's going on and what happens with that.
Yeah. Well, that's real interesting, and it makes me think maybe they might move on to smart meters too. I mean, the first thing is knowledge, and then the second thing is reaction. And maybe if you have enough information, maybe you don't need a smart meter, at least for purposes of managing your own use. So interesting. I wonder how they do that. I wonder how they know which.
They provide a little explanation. They provided a little explanation of it. Not very technical or a lot of detail, but it was really interesting. And, I'd love to get more information about it, and just wanted to pass along a thank you and encouragement to keep following that path.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Commissioner Fishman. Any other comments from any other commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Maestas, and then Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think many of you recall the Department of Energy had approached us and the state of New Mexico to participate in the National Community Solar Partnerships Community Solar Subscription Platform Pilot. I know that's a mouthful. And we as a commission agreed to participate and sign an MOU to participate in the development of this software platform. However, it required the signature of an appropriate state official representing the LIHEAP program within Human Services Department. And I'm proud to announce that the state has signed the MOU to participate. And I want to just read an excerpt from a national press release done by the Department of Energy. The title is Biden-Harris Administration Launches New Solar Initiative to Lower Electricity Bills and Create Clean Energy Jobs. And the subtitle is Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Funding Will Support Solar Energy Careers in Underserved Areas and a New Digital Platform that will make reliable solar power more accessible. And I'm just going to read a little excerpt from that press release. The Community Solar Subscription Platform is designed to connect community solar projects with verified cost savings to households participating in government-run assistance programs like LIHEAP. The initial pilot will be supported by the states of Colorado, Illinois, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, and Washington, D.C. These states will provide feedback, coordination, and data to test the operability, security, and performance of the platform. DOE has prioritized working with states that have existing programs to support low-income community solar development, so that if successful, participants will see significant electricity bill savings. And they estimate a 20% savings in New Mexico. And they also estimate that it could lead to electric bill savings up to 30 million in New Mexico. Our Governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, provided a quote. I'll just read the first part of it. New Mexico is excited to participate in this pilot program, which builds on my administration's efforts to make solar available to everyone. So I want to thank our Chief of Staff, Wayne, and Christopher Hall. We waited, I think, over a week to see if we could get it signed informally, but we had to do an all full court press to really kind of shake the bushes and get some attention to this. But I'm just proud to announce that that MOU has been signed and we are a pilot state.
Well, I think that's excellent. And, given our role, maybe we should issue a press release of our own. I don't know how you feel about that, but just a suggestion. But it sounds like we did some legwork there. I'm glad the governor is talking about it. I think that's fine, but I think we could too. So just a shout out there.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. And
Yeah.
maybe that's our 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
It's not quite 15 minutes, but also I just wanted to make a comment about some recent press regarding the objectivity of this commission. I mean, I think this body has demonstrated a record of objectivity toward all regulated entities, doing its utmost to make decisions dispassionately and in the public interest. And some of those decisions, quite frankly, have gone the utilities' way. And let's be clear, some have not. I have personally pushed to ensure that there is proper balancing of ratepayers and shareholder interests and in the public interest. And so to have, I think our objectivity questioned is beyond disappointing. These articles that were in the press was alongside, I think, a celebratory article about the renewable energy project at the Facebook data center. And I think everyone knows for the record that the initial application for that project was recommended by staff to be denied. And I really understood the importance of the project going through. And I sponsored an alternative order that excluded the questionable 50 megawatts of system-wide use for the battery storage part of that renewable energy project. So I think that's an example where I do consider everything, the economic development impacts of such projects, the need to maintain balance in the regulatory environment here in New Mexico. And so I don't believe at all that this body is not objective. And I could go on and cite other examples, but I think it's disappointing. I think we just need to move forward and kind of stop the back and forth and deal with these issues in a fair and objective manner. So, Madam Chair, I just wanted to make those remarks. Thank you. That's all I had.
Oh, thank you very much, Vice Chair Maestas. I'm really glad you made those comments because I have found, a number of those articles disturbing as well. And I go back and forth in my mind whether it makes sense to, write something back, trying to explain ourselves and how we operate, but or not. So I think it's important that we do state, though, that we are objective. I try very hard to be objective as well, and I know we all do, and we take this job very seriously. So I share your sentiments completely on that subject. That it's not productive to try to suggest that we're proceeding in a non-objective way. So Commissioner, let's see. I think we were going to go to Commissioner Vicente Aguilar next, but I thought I saw Commissioner Fishman indicating.
No,
Okay, fine. Okay, so Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for Judy. Judy in General Counsel's office. Is she on the phone or on the line?
Looks like it. Judy,
Yes,
are you?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Mhm.
Oh,
just
yes,
on-
Judy. Earlier in the meeting, Holly Birdie, I understand, is going to be on the agenda next week. And I also heard that General Counsel's office reached to 4 commissioners. I was not contacted, and I was just wondering if the General Counsel's office missed a mark.
Oh, no, since Mike had volunteered to contact the commissioners individually, he had to go to Houston for a doctor's appointment. I offered to contact 2, and he offered to contact 2. One of the 2 that he offered to contact was you. I don't know if he was able to actually speak with you. I think he said he tried to, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, thank you, Judy. The second thing that I would like to talk about is the complaints being filed regarding our PRC executive sessions. We're being investigated by the Attorney General's office. And is there any progress with the complaint that was filed in April?
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar and members of the commission, no, which is really has been a subject of discussion in our office. They asked us to respond by June 4th, and we filed very lengthy responses. I filed one, Mike filed the other, because there were 2 complaints, and the Attorney General has not issued anything regarding our responses.
The Business Coalition President, Carla Sontag, is that person or her organization is filing the complaints with the Attorney General?
It was filed by their attorney, the attorney for New Mexico Business Coalition.
And as our General Counsel for the Commission, what is your new perspective on this pattern of activity that we are seeing in the press?
Well, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, members of the commission, I, as well as the other lawyers in OGC, firmly believe that we comply with the Open Meetings Act, that there are 2 exemptions that we have gone into executive session on. One is the deliberations regarding administrative adjudicatory proceedings, and the other is to discuss pending or anticipated litigation. Both of those are valid exceptions. They're in the law. The legislature intended to put them in the law and intended to allow public bodies to go into closed session. If the legislature didn't want public bodies to go into closed session in certain circumstances, they never would have put those exceptions in the law. And so we have validly gone cited to those exceptions. And we have only discussed matters in closed sessions that either are one or the other, either a deliberation on an administrative adjudicatory proceeding or pending and anticipated litigation. And that is all we have ever talked about in executive session. And when we come out, we state that. So that's always been our position. There's nothing new about our belief that we comply completely with the Open Meetings Act. Regarding these new complaints and the fact that they're filed by the New Mexico Business Coalition, it appears to be, as you say, something new that we have to deal with. And they speak for themselves in terms of frequency, which is new. And because I don't think the commission is doing anything new, but the complaints are new.
Well, we're deciding on cases, high-profile cases, and my perspective from now on is that maybe we can limit the closed executive sessions and talk about the issues in public. During the course of the years, this is my 9th year serving as the commissioner, and I think we were called into closed session probably once or twice a year, but lately it's been like every other month. So I just want to state for the record that I think it's time that we start limiting going into closed executive sessions on cases. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's my comment.
Madam Chair, or
Yes.
yeah, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fishman, and then Commissioner Vice Chair Maestas also say something?
Yeah, so just real quickly for the public's benefit.
Okay.
I want to make clear that when we, and Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, when we go into closed session, it's because on an adjudicatory matter, it's because we're discussing legal issues that if they're discussed in a public meeting, those comments could be taken and used against us in an appeal. And it could be selective pulling of those comments from a larger discussion. And that sometimes in a legal matter, as you're coming to discussing the various angles and what they mean, you can expose yourself to legal issues that we shouldn't be exposing ourselves to, and that we can't expose ourselves to and still serve the public interest. So there's a good reason that the legislature put those exceptions in there, and we try to use them judiciously only for the purposes that they're intended and in the public interest. And that when we come out of those executive sessions, we try to give at least a clear sense of the general topic that we were discussing without creating legal exposure for what we're doing, and unnecessary legal exposure that would work against the public interest. So I just want to emphasize to the public that there's a reason we're doing what we're doing. It's not to limit transparency. It's to avoid those unnecessary legal exposures. That's the way the system works. I wish we could find a better way, but it's the best we can figure out for right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Fishman. I think that's a very good description. Vice Chair Maestas, did you also speak up on that issue? I'm not inviting you to. I just thought I heard you say something when Commissioner Fishman said, Madam Chair. Am I mistaken?
No, I think it's been covered, Madam Chair.
Okay, fine. Okay, well, then I would like to follow on that comment a little bit. And I would say the avoidance of talking about legal issues in public is not the only reason that governmental bodies like ours enjoy that exception in the Open Meetings Act for closed deliberative sessions. It's also just because it's intended for there to be better outcomes in decision-making, because commissioners can speak freely without the pressure of the public eye. For example, when they need to ask dumb questions, which they would be inhibited from asking later on. I see Steve smiling. Maybe he's the only one who isn't inhibited.
We don't ask dumb questions. We don't ask dumb questions. Go ahead.
And also I think there is a benefit in that you don't have as much public grandstanding by commissioners when there's no public watching. And it's really a much more candid, honest discussion. And I think my recollection from the 2 closed sessions we had was that we found it very productive. We were able to just get down to the points, put our positions on the table, and not feel the pressure of the public eye. And, you know, I think particularly for our agency, since our role is quasi-judicial, that is another reason why it's appropriate, because we're deciding adjudicated cases, and the other government bodies that do that, district courts and appellate courts, don't do their deliberations in public either, because it's considered unnecessary and not appropriate. And, you know, the assertions that we're somehow depriving the public of our decision-making process, I think can't be fully supported, because for all of our adjudicated cases, we have a recommended decision, and that lays out reasoning, which we quite often adopt completely. And then quite often, when we've returned from closed sessions and voted, we do make remarks further to inform the public why we've decided. So I think for all those reasons, the legislature wisely provided that exception to the Open Meetings Act, and we would be foolish not to use it. I would just also mention, I received numerous comments on this topic from people, but I received a call yesterday from a former commissioner, a female commissioner, who was just shocked to see that we were being criticized in public for deliberating in private, because when she was on the commission, that's the way they did it. And that was before commissioners were elected. So, you know, I think that's just an example of how it used to be and how we should try to proceed. Anyhow, those are my comments. And I also don't think it's smart to cave to criticism when we know we're doing the right thing. So with that, that's the comments that I have to make on that point. And unless anybody else has any more comments, do we have any more comments from anybody? Hearing none, we're adjourned.